Hello and welcome, welcome, welcome. Calling in Dragons. Yes, I am. Hello and welcome back to Raising Dragons with me, Crystal Irvin. I don't know about you, but this week has been, to include last week and this week with school, has been a freaking nightmare for me. I do not understand. They wanted the schools open, why they weren't better prepared for it and for our kids going to school. I read an article today that the BBC, that's in England, that their special needs children are suffering. They are struggling. And the schools are struggling financially because we are aware that when you have a child that goes to school, especially a special needs school, and they have an IEP or 504 plan, that the school has to provide for them to meet all of their needs, whether it be physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy, um, gross motor skills, large motor skills, emotional support, and that requires funding. However, because we are living in this whole pancetta, money is scarce, and the ones who always seem to suffer are the ones who need it the most. And right now, it's our special needs children. And the parents don't know what to do because the kids can't go to school because the school doesn't have the funding to provide the services for the children. Same thing here in the USA. And I live in the city of Philadelphia, and I am in constant fights with the school district of Philadelphia because their special education program is lacking, seriously lacking. I hear stories every day of the bus not showing up, of the teacher not being there, the ABA, which is their behavioral specialist that's with the one-on-one with the child, is doing practicing things that really aren't good or not showing up at all. And it gets really frustrating as a parent because you know they education is key, and it helps our kids to be more social. It helps them with their people skills, social skills, and also that's where their therapies are when they need all their additional support for to help them be successful, not just in school but just in life in general. And I'm not understanding and not sure why we in the special needs community are always low man on a totem pole and last one thought about when they're creating all of these policies, and also to open the school. For me, my personal story, that my child cannot go to school because he cannot wear a mask all day, and I haven't heard nothing from the school district at all. I haven't heard nothing. His teacher has heard nothing. He can't go to school, so there is no, and they didn't give him an option to be to learn virtually. And then on top of that, school district isn't answering their phone, and there's a line wrapped around the building of parents needing to go in to speak to somebody because the buses aren't picking up the children. Kids aren't in school. I know my child isn't in school and hasn't been in school, and for me, he digresses when he isn't going over things because it is proven that our kids learn through repetition. So he digresses, and it's going to be, I do what I can with him. However, when they want him to do advance to a certain skill or do something else, then it's going to be hard to do because he's no one is doing anything, and no one has any answers for me either. To include with other parents, no one has answers, and I feel that because we live in uh, our society now, that we definitely should have some answers or a better system, something. And we're relying on a system that is lacking. We're relying on a system that does not include our children until voices are raised, until lawyers are called. And I find that very, very disheartening. And one of the websites that you can go to look up this information is www.psychologytoday.com/us. I don't know if that stands for us or US, but you can go there and look up the article about the BBC, and also looking up special needs and in special education, because it plays a lot into where the money is going, and how it's divvied up, and who gets it and who doesn't, right? We do understand that living in the inner city, we don't get as much money as the county does, right? And some would say, oh, because they pay more taxes. Well, I pay taxes too. So can't just be that. But the bulk of the monies go out towards, the upper, middle, and upper class, whereas the low income communities and low income families don't um, get the same liberties. And with school being now, I know for my son, what helps is being on the schedule. I feel that with even though he's not in front of a teacher, he's brilliant. He loves his iPad, and so we developed a schedule where I get up in the morning, he gets up in the morning. I come down for breakfast. He comes down for breakfast. I turned on Coco Melon. We all know Coco Melon is the jam. As before it was Baby Shark. And I also turned on, there's a lot of programs on YouTube to help with children programs. There's the Reading Rainbow was on there. There's a ton, there's millions of shows in millions of different languages for to help facilitate or to help beef up your education portfolio. With me is Coco Melon, and then we go over his sign language because we are teaching him to sign because he's nonverbal. We also go over numbers, we go over letters and reading, just so he can still have that type of in the morning is school or class time, and then there's circle time, and then there's reading, and then there's lunch, so that whenever the powers that be start teaching, then he won't be too far behind. And I know that helps with our kids to have them on the schedule. And sometimes the schedule doesn't always happen, and it doesn't happen immediately, and they don't get it right away. But the more you do it, the more that they will, one, enjoy it, one, get used to it. So then when it comes to introducing a new person or introducing a new task, they're not as resistant to it. And I hope that helps some of you, because I know it definitely helped me in the beginning, that we had to keep doing it. And sometimes as a parent, you get really tired and really frustrated doing the same thing over and over and over again. However, it helps our children. It helps him. And that definitely helps me understand him, and he teaches me a lot. Another resource that can help with your children during this time is the communityresourceconnects.org. It has a lot of uh, resources and information for anything and everything you might need, from potty training to food to water to activities in your city to doctors to health. Anything you could think of is on here. Community Resource Connects, and other parents are on there too, and you can connect with them to help you get whatever that you need. And I think that's really great. I was on there for hours, like looking at things, because I have parents that come and ask me about um, resources for their kids, where to go for this, that, third, and the other, and how to get connected and stay connected. And that's the one thing for our special needs community, is to always stay connected. If not with your team, and I consider your team to be your doctors, your nurses, your specialists, to include your family, and also um, with other parents, right? Because, just like kids speak to kids, parents speak to parents. There could be something that I could help with, or that another parent is going through, that you're going through similarly, that could help you out through your situation. I don't know how I really feel about school because we're like I think what is the name of the new variant that's out there now? There's so many variants to this COVID. It's insane. And I can't even wrap my head around it because if they had a vaccine for COVID, does it work for the variants also? And, my child, he's 7, he's in the age range where he can't get the vaccine. And also because he is, health compromised, he's medically fragile, he's not a good candidate to get the vaccine too. And when they want to send kids to school, and you and I both know kids are nasty. They are nasty. Kids do things you're like, um, what is that in your mouth? Or close your mouth. Or don't pick that up. Don't throw that down. Wash your hands. They are nasty. So passing of germs, right? In this whole thing, oh my God, I'm cringing inside. But I know my son couldn't even go into the school because they had, you have to wear a mask every day. But how are they? And I get it because kids need socialization. I get it. Teachers need to get paid. I get, the government needs to send their funding and they get funded by the kids in school. And I get it. But there's this whole thing out here that is killing people. And you want our kids to go to school. Huh. Right? This goes back to, remember your grandparents used to tell you, oh, I walked 10 miles in the snow to school. If I did it, you could do it. But here we have something that is killing. And I heard on the news today that in Africa, the bubonic plague is now killing people over there. And I'm like, what? The bubonic plague? How is that even? Isn't that from rats? Isn't the bubonic plague carried by rats or passed by rats? Oy vey, I can't even wrap my head around it. So I am okay with my son being home. I homeschooled my other children and I'm okay with him being home and homeschooling him. I just need the resources and the additional services to be on board with that too, so he can, receive the services that he needs. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not an occupational therapist. I'm not a speech therapist. I barely speak English. So I need those powers to be to also help um, to come on board either virtually or Zoom it or be on a porch and we can be through the window like a last bubble. I don't know. If you have any questions for me or comments or would like to share your story, you can send them all to my email. It's crystalirvin.ce@gmail.com, CRYSTALERVIN, period, C as in cat, E as in eagle, @gmail.com. Okay? Send your questions, send your resources, send articles, send your story. And if you would like to be on the show, also send that too. Okay? Is there a question from the audience? No. I thought there was a question. How do? How do? How do what? How do you do? How do you find a school? How do you find a school for your special needs child? You can go to the school district's website. Your school district here in Philadelphia, it's the www.philasd.org, and they have a list of schools on their website for you to look into. They have public schools, they have charter schools, and they have special needs schools on their website. So if you live in another school district, just go to your school district website and look under schools, and all of the schools will be listed there. Schools for public schools, charter schools, Catholic schools, parochial schools, um, virtual schools, and also schools for special needs. And then sometimes if you call your school district um, and ask for the special education liaison, if you already know that you need special education, they can also direct you to a school that best fits you and your child. Because my son, he has multiple disciplinaries. So, do children on the spectrum integrate well with other children? That's really hard to say because some do and some don't. It all depends on the child and the environment. I know for my son, he has to feel safe in an environment. It has to be well lit, because he has mobility issues, so there can't be anything on the to hinder him from getting to um his classmate. In the beginning, he was a little standoffish. He wasn't quite sure if he could, kids, he wasn't quite sure if he could trust them. He wasn't quite sure if, he wanted to be there. But after he warmed up, he played really well with the other kids. And also he's very helpful and would help them out if they were crying or if they were upset or wanted something. So every child is different, and it all depends on, again, the child and their needs and the environment of the classroom. Are there services that help the children learn to adjust to the environment? Yes, in the classroom, every classroom has a teacher's assistant, and they have this classroom small. Let me not say they have. They're supposed to have the classroom small. I know in my case, the classrooms are small or to better manage the children in the classroom. And instead of, I think the ratio for some classrooms was one adult for every 6 children. In the special needs classroom, it's one adult for every 2 children. So they do have adults in the classroom that helps facilitate the relationships in the classroom, and also to help the children adapt and adjust to what's going on in the classroom and also to each other. Because some have mobility issues, some have communication devices, some wear glasses. In my son's case, he wears glasses and hearing aids. So the classroom assistant was very intricate in helping him navigating through the classroom where the toys were, and talking and playing with his classmates. Have you experienced someone treating your child poorly? Not an adult, another child, yes. Because, kids are kids are mean. Kids are mean. So yes, another child, I did experience a child treating my son poorly, not an adult. And kids, sometimes it's a learned behavior. In this case, they were just because my son he has mobility issues, so he doesn't walk really steady on his feet, and he has glasses and a hearing aid, and he's nonverbal. So when they would try to talk to him, and yes, he could say hi and he could say bye, but a sentence he can't say. So the kids would this one particular individual, little boy, was making fun of him because he wasn't talking. How do other children interact with your son? Kids like my other kids like my son. They especially boys. With the girls, because the girls like, hey, but the boys, I guess because it's boys and boys like trucks and cars and rough play, so they all I have to tell him to be careful because he has a feeding tube. But after I tell him to be careful and tuck his feeding tube in, they are boys and run and roll around and wrestle and play with their cars, and very loud and very stinky. They think farting is a game. Not with it. But that's boys. Thank you for these questions. I appreciate it. And I hope these my answers are helping someone and also helping you. So if there are no more questions, once again, you can send your questions to crystalirvin.ce@gmail.com. And I am here every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Next week, I may have a guest, or it'll be me again, and we will go over the moodiness of our dragons. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next week.